everyone. This is Ashley, aka Midnight. Just wanted to preface this podcast episode and let you guys know that this was recorded on March 11th. So that was before the Call of Duty League announcement of moving scheduled events to online. Just to give you guys a little bit of context of why we were not really talking about that and why we were so focused on kind of recapping the Los Angeles event. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy the podcast, enjoy the recap, and have a great day. Hello and welcome to another episode of Building Minnesota RØKKR. My name is Ashley, aka Midnight, Director of Content for the team, here with Brett Diamond, COO. We got another duo episode today. So how are you today, first of all? I haven't asked you that yet.
Good. How are you?
Good. Happy to be here recording. Happy after the crazy weekend that was
crazy.
The Los Angeles home series. If you guys are listening and haven't kept up with the team, it's probably pretty rare. I think if you're listening to this, you probably at least watch our team's matches. But we placed second at the LA home series, which, you know, was obviously, it's great. It's great to improve on our top four placing, or top three, top four in Atlanta. So we bumped up. So, I mean, logically, the next tournament we'll hopefully bump up to. We'll see. We'll knock on wood, see how it goes. But yeah,
one step at a time.
Yeah, one step at a time. So obviously I was back home at the watch party, and we'll definitely touch on that. But I wanted to kind of ask you about like your experience at the event. Yeah. How was it? How did everything go from the Shrine in LA?
Yeah, it was an amazing experience being out there. The Gorillas and Optic put on a great event. I mean, obviously the matches were amazing.
Yes.
Right? I mean, it's.
That finals was one for the books, man.
Yeah, I mean, basically everything Sunday is that's a day I don't think anyone with this organization will ever forget. And obviously, we would have came up just a one little step short of winning it all. But everything that day was amazing. To come out, after a setback Saturday night, dominate, surge first thing in the morning.
That was a good feeling.
Everything about that Atlanta match was unreal.
That one's for the books. I mean, Atlanta, we handed them their first L. Yeah. I read some crazy stat that like Simpin and Beasy hadn't lost since like June of 2019 or something like that. Might have been July, but they haven't lost in a long time. So we were able to finally get over that phase hump, which, I mean, from the perspective of how long this season is, like, the way that we took the L from them in Atlanta, and then we came right back 2 weeks later and obviously accomplished beating them, and that was got to be huge for the guys.
Yeah, and I think, and we've talked about it in the last podcast, what we love about these guys is their competitiveness, and they know they're good, and they had a chip on their shoulder coming out of Atlanta because they felt like the doubters were still there, and even though they gave Atlanta a fight, a lot of people in the media, casters, etc., were surprised by that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And the players, like, they were borderline offended that people were surprised
because they know that they could do it, and we know that.
Yep, exactly.
Well, even you hear like Coach Crowder on FaZe say like, if we are gonna get beat by a team, I feel like it would maybe be RØKKR, just because they match us really well.
Yeah, and so then to come back and show to anybody who had doubt that it was not a fluke, to not just play FaZe close but beat them. Yeah. Obviously the goal is not to make the finals. The goal is to win it. And,
right.
That's the attitude that the guys have. But I mean, incredibly proud of everything that they accomplished.
I mean, and too, like, so my worry, obviously, like, I was at the watch party, by the way. The watch party was phenomenal, especially Saturday. We had a huge turnout Saturday. We went from our first watch party for the Atlanta home series at Billy's on Grand in St. Paul. We filled a whole room there full. So now for the LA home series, we filled 2 rooms full. Amazing. So we've naturally been growing, and it was awesome. We had like special cocktails, like RØKKR cocktails and mocktails with like laser edged RØKKR helmets inside of them. It was a good vibe. It was great to see everybody again, and it's awesome to start seeing familiar faces at these things, because those are like, that's the foundation you build this thing off.
I'll admit that looks and sounds so cool that I actually had FOMO. I was at the event.
Yes.
I was in LA watching it live, and I wanted to be at Billy's in Minnesota.
You were like, dang, I wish I was at the watch party. I mean, it makes sense though, because I mean, if you're at an away event, it's like your people like aren't there, right? So I mean,
Yeah, and that was really the first event. Because even in Atlanta, because that was the first event after hours, we had a few more people travel to that one.
Yeah.
So this one, I was mostly just watching by myself, and like when I'm watching, I'm watching like any other fan, right?
Yeah.
So I'm, you want to have somebody,
like
to high five or
yeah.
fist bump, and so you don't have that when you're just like solo, and like for me, I give the players and coaches their space. Before and after matches, right? Like I'll, a little while before they take the stage, I'll go and, and say good luck. And then afterwards I'll say good game, whatever the result is. But I'm not backstage with them. Like I'm not in the dugout or anything like that. There's an area backstage that they, they have just kind of like some chairs and some TVs to watch, but you couldn't hear the casters in that area.
Oh, yeah. I would like to hear the casters.
Yeah. So for the most part, I went and stood kind of in a corner. Like I can't sit during it. I get too antsy, but
you need to pace. I'm sure there was a lot of pacing going on
so,
Sunday.
So I would go out, and I would stand and just, kind of in the back of the crowd with a good view of the screen and just watch from there. And then every once in a while I'd kind of walk backstage to the area where they have the kind of TVs for anybody backstage to watch. At one point I found a spot kind of behind the area where all the broadcast techs work, where they have multiple screens that they're, it's where they're choosing what's going to actually go on the stream, so I could actually watch like always see a RØKKR point of view.
Oh, that's
But
awesome.
It's not really a place. It's a place that you can walk through, but not really a place they expect a lot of people to stand.
Yeah.
So it was a little like it wasn't a place I wasn't supposed to be, but it was a little weird. So
Yeah,
I
so
moved on
you didn't want to linger
after a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you actually can't hear the casters there either. So
Yeah.
I kind of roamed around a lot to find the right spot.
Yeah, the casters do such a good job. I've told a couple of people this, like each of the three caster duos is kind of dynamic in their own way, and I love like all of them. Like sometimes I'm usually like, oh yeah, I have a favorite too, and I hope they cast like the match I'm about to watch. And this year it's like literally, I don't know if they've all, because it's a lot of the same guys, but like I don't know if they stepped their game up, or maybe they're all just such perfectionists, and they've really gotten their craft kind of like how they want it. But it's really done. I think right now my current favorite, because it switches, but I like Miles and Momo. Their wordplay is awesome.
Yeah. So
I get excited when they cast our matches, and it's just, I don't know, it adds a whole vibe to it. So I definitely get like wanting to hear kind of the communication.
It was funny. In the middle of that map 4 hardpoint during Dallas, or against Dallas, in the middle of that map when it was starting to look not great for us, when they took sort of a, I think it was about a 30-point lead, sort of in the middle of it. Just so happened that Miles had kind of walked up and was standing next to me where I was watching. And he was like, "You guys got this. You guys got this." And I'm looking at the score,
and you're like, "Stop jinxing."
Yeah, and it was kind of like, I mean, I know we were keeping it within, within striking distance. Yeah, it was a lot of back and forth. But it was like right when they had started to pull ahead, probably before, probably like early in P3 before we kind of started that comeback.
Yeah. Well, and then,
and I don't know if he was just saying that to like, because he happened to be standing next to me, or if he actually like, felt like we had an angle to make the comeback, but made me feel a little bit better.
I mean, there's a couple of hills on Hackney where you could really get a ton of time, and so they had obviously gotten a ton of time off of the good hills, but there's obviously a big fight to be had with all the other ones too. So it was just such a scrappy game. So obviously like beating FaZe, momentous. I was a little bit afraid while I was at the watch party. I mean, I just experienced it. So I was like, oh my God, huge dopamine dump. I'm just so excited. And I was like, I sat down and then I was exhausted. And I was like, oh man, we still have to play the finals. Like how, I wonder, and I'd love to ask the players this, because I'm sure they'll say like, oh no, like we're fine. And I definitely would think that they are, but it's got to be insane to finally have such a huge win against, the best team in the game in Atlanta FaZe, and then have to go play Dallas, who's definitely a worthy competitor. I mean, obviously they're super, super good. So I was a little nervous that I was either thinking they're going to keep the momentum and it's going to be nice, or it's going to be oh my gosh, we can't catch our breath in between the insane match we just had.
Yeah. And it was a little bit chaotic backstage between matches. And like I said, I usually I give them their space, but I did go up to Brian and Jake, to the coaches, and just say, hey, if you guys need more time, I'll help address that with the league. And they asked for a couple more minutes, and we got it, and the league was good about it. But I also didn't want to lean too hard into that because I don't know. I don't know their psychology, right? Like maybe they wanted to roll right into it despite the chaos and keep the momentum going. So it's maybe. Because I have to imagine, that if you wait too long, you start to start to come down. It's kind of like if you come down and you don't have time to get back up. I don't know.
Yeah.
But not knowing that psychology, I just kind of said to the coaches, like, hey, if you need anything from me, let me know. If we need to try to get a little bit more time for you.
Yeah.
But it's pretty much like, guys, use the restroom and
kind of take a deep breath.
Yeah, take a deep breath.
Understand that you still have a ways to go. And then, so what made me nervous too is, to be fair, and I'd love to talk to the coaches about this. I think it's possible that our map picks were favorable for us in the later part of the series. So when we went down 0-2, I wasn't like, oh, it's over, and plus those maps were pretty close too. Yeah. So I was not thinking like, oh, we're going to get 3 out. And then, we won the Dom, and I'm like, okay, that was spicy. Let's keep it moving. And then, that insane map 4 hardpoint happens. Insane. You've got to check that out on I think we're going to upload RØKKR replay. Obviously it's up on the league's channel right now, the whole match, but we're going to be uploading replay with, interviews from the players and gameplay alongside it. So if you guys are interested in watching some of our key matches, they'll be on our channel. But it's just, it was so insane. Like that comeback I've seen moments like that, but they're few and far between in competitive Call of Duty when it's that intense. You've watched it a few times now?
I probably have watched that 15 or 20 times, and part of it is...
You make me feel like a slacker. I've watched it twice.
We've talked about it on the podcast. Part of it is I have sort of an obsession with learning why something happened.
Yeah.
Because I'm used to watching football and hockey, I know a fair amount about. So when I'm watching those sports, I understand everything that's happening. I don't mind admitting, in the midst of that chaotic end, it's like,
exactly
okay,
what was
I know
going
it's
on.
good when one of the Dallas Empire guys goes down,
right?
But I don't know what's happening in the what exactly what's happening in the moment. So that night I couldn't sleep at all, and I was obsessed with
learning.
Okay, who killed who when, and how did that happen?
Apparently Asim was saying sick. he was insane. He made the play. He threw the Semtex or something like that pretty much clutched it for us. And he was saying that he was wishing so badly that their perspective had been shown. And I was salty throughout for how there was literally an entire rotation plus a hill that they only spectated Dallas players on that Ramaza. Ask the people that were at the watch party. I was screaming for them to spectate our team. Yeah. So I wish
that's part of why I went and found the spot. Yeah,
you would think if it's a tie. I guess you'd want to be on with the winning team, and they were so close to winning. Yeah. But also you'd want to watch the retake, and they usually do. They usually try to watch the retakes in search or watch the retakes. On that.
So what I saw, and you can correct me because obviously you know a lot more about this than I do, but I watched it a lot.
You've definitely watched it more than I have. I still need to find...
I totally nerded out.
I need to find the part where they actually got gifted a spawn that they weren't supposed to get, which with this game, it's hard to even know how to influence that. But they got a little bit of a lucky spawn, and then we were able to push through in such a proper way, taking, I think it was Clayster out of that building and then being able to funnel.
So we're talking about Asim, and we definitely, we've talked about getting his, once we get all the point of view or angles from the league, getting that up as content so people can see it from his angle. And I'm sure, look, I imagine nothing like that happens if every player isn't killing it and doing their part, right? But sort of what I saw watching it, through, I don't mind saying, noob's eyes, right?
You're not a noob anymore, that's for sure.
I'm somewhere in the middle.
You've leveled up. You're like a level 2.
Level 2, all right, I'll take it.
Yeah, you're a Christmas noob still.
I'll take it. So in P4, from what I saw, Assault had a great 2-piece where he got 2 guys coming in, but then shortly after that, I believe Asim was the only one still in there, and he won a one-on-one with, I think, Hugh. I'm not 100% sure. And like if he goes down there, I don't think they close it out. But with them having the spawns for the next one, like I think they would have won there. And then in that final sequence, Asim took out Hugh in the yellow building, and then it was his grenade that took out Clayster to open up the hard point.
Allow them to just funnel in there.
Yeah. What I don't know is who threw the grenade that, like, I saw some comments on Twitter about this, how they, like, I think it was Illy and Krim that went up the stairs, and everyone's like, why'd they go up the stairs? It was because someone threw
They're trying to stay alive.
Landed perfectly.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't see any of this when I watched it live, but I was like obsessed, and I watched it back 10 times. I don't know who threw that grenade, but they, like, those guys went up the stairs.
Pushed them
out.
Yeah.
And then when they came down, like, our guys knew they went up the stairs, and so I think it was Asim and Silly took them out when they came down.
Gosh.
And it's like, if any one of those things doesn't happen, there's probably 10 other things that I'm just not picking up. If any one of those things doesn't happen, we lose that match.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was just like a perfect break because, I mean, they had the advantageous position and truly just had to lock it down, and just we clutched up, and it was awesome to see. And that's when I was like, when we tied it 2-2 and then we were going into search and destroy on, I think, Gunrunner, I was feeling like pretty confident, but also like, and I want to geek out with the coaches, but I also don't want to bother them because they have a lot to do.
Yeah.
But like,
well, just so listeners know, the coaches and players took a couple days off after the match, so like a lot of them went home, so they haven't been in yet for us.
We haven't
for us to really download.
Yeah,
with them,
we haven't been able to pick their brains yet.
Yeah, I'm dying to hear about it from their perspectives.
Yeah, because we don't even have like another scheduled match for like 3 weeks, so they went home for a few days and well deserved, get some rest after that.
Yes.
But yeah, I want to like ask them like how this works because Gunrunner Search seemed to be one of our stronger maps. However, we've played it so many times now. We've kind of like we've played really well on it, but then also like we've gotten our butts kicked on it a little bit. Yeah. And so in my head, I'm like, is that because when you start playing it more, then it's just more film for the other teams to download on? Is it almost better to go with a different choice that would maybe surprise the other team? Or I'd like to hear how the vetoes actually went. Maybe that was their choice in the Dallas's choice map in the first place. Who knows? But, I thought like we could definitely take that. I mean, we're a search and destroy game away from winning our first championship, which, I mean, if you think about it, like that's literally our second tournament. Like we had launch weekend.
It's amazing. And, I posted this on Twitter that night, but what impressed me the most was just like the fight in these guys, like to scrap and claw through the phase match, and then to dominate we haven't even talked about the end of map 4 against phase, which was crazy too. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a second, but scratch and claw through the phase match, and even to had a setback Saturday night versus Optic, came back Sunday morning and just dominated Surge, who is a good team, and then to look like we talked about. First to admit that I'm new to Call of Duty, but in any competitive environment, any sport, any competition, if you fall down early, particularly in a championship, it takes a special type of mental toughness to come back from that.
Right.
And you see that a lot in traditional sports, in championship moments, where teams that fall down are less likely to come back in a championship than they are in just a regular season game when it's a little looser, right? Humans in general, when the stakes are the highest, if you fall behind, you're more likely to just kind of mail it in.
Yeah. And
so for them to go down 0-2 in that match and then fight all the way back the way they did, that just says so much about them.
Especially because, like, GotterX, Alex, and Asim, that was their first ever finals. I mean, they've obviously played on the stage before, but that's the first, like, we're about to win a championship feeling that they've had, like, that they could feel that, right? Yeah. And so, obviously, you have the veteran leadership and, like, Assault and Silly, who've won on the biggest stage, COD champs in World War II, but it takes, like you're saying, a special type of person to go down 0-2 and just say, let's regain, like, we got this. Like, it just shows the composure of our team. And we didn't close it out, but now it's even that much more fuel in our fire to say, we're going to go into the next tournament swinging.
like the moment in that venue when the fans started chanting "Let's go
Yes.
RØKKR."
I did want to bring that up too.
Amazing.
We were watching at the watch party. Everyone who had been there was there for like 7 hours. So obviously we didn't have as much or as many people there on Sunday, especially after being there 7 hours. Like some people just
The hardcore stuck around.
Hardcore stuck around, and if you couldn't make it, it's okay. I feel ya. But like, we were pretty tired, I think. Like, we'd already drank our drinks and ate our food, and so it was getting pretty late, and so. But so we were quietly like kind of watching the matches, a little cheering here and there, and we heard the "Let's Go RØKKR" chant on the stream, and all of us looked around at each other like, and then we started chanting. It was such a cool moment.
So cool.
It was like, we just got so hyped hearing that, and just hearing that people in the venue, like, I guess maybe saw us as an underdog against Dallas. Yeah. They just, who doesn't love to cheer for an underdog, so.
Yeah, I think that's my sense of it, is we're sort of seen as that scrappy underdog.
Yeah.
We're upsetting phase. We're giving we're giving these top teams a run for their money, and if you're not a fan of those other top teams, maybe it's natural.
Come hang out with us.
Yep, we're cool being somebody's second favorite team or their favorite team.
Exactly.
So we think about the fact that this is not something that existed 9 months ago. Minnesota RØKKR was not a thing.
Yeah.
And it was unbelievable. We've obviously talked about it on this podcast. It was unbelievable to see the fan reactions launch weekend, and now with the watch parties, and it just keeps building and building. But I don't think in any of our wildest dreams we imagined a venue full of people in LA chanting "Let's go RØKKR." Like,
I just got
unreal.
goosebumps. I know that's so nerdy, but like, that is amazing to me. And just know, like, and I think it, obviously, if you're listening, you guys know, like, Brett and I, like, he's employee 1, I'm employee 2, watching this thing, or even just being a part of its growth, not even just watching it, but every step of the way, being there and laying down these bricks with you, like, it's been such a journey. And like, the team, and although like when we recruited the team, like, I knew that this is a decent team, like, and especially because they're the type of guys that are gonna grind, and they're good, like, I couldn't have even imagined that they'd start off this hot. You know what I mean? Like, you never really know. You're going into a new game. You're dealing with roster stuff from like the previous games. You don't know how it's exactly going to work out, but their work ethic, the work ethic of the staff. I know we just get into this every podcast, but it's something we're so proud of. Like, the players are just, they've done such a good job. And I think I tweeted them. It's so corny, but like, I tweeted them like, I'm proud of you guys no matter what before the finals. And like, not even just because you've exceeded my expectations, but just because I know what has gone into this moment, getting this far. And so, when it comes down to seeing people show up to a watch party at 9 a.m. or seeing that double that almost at the next one, and then like, I couldn't have even, like, 4 months ago, if I would have turned to you and said, yeah, Brett, I bet like we're going to fill a whole bar full of people to watch our matches. Like, you would have been like, I hope.
Yeah. Well, and, I think it's also, these guys, we talked about the fight that these guys have, and we talked a lot on the last podcast about the, just the dedication and the work ethic. And it's truly been amazing. The things that, look, when we started recruiting the players, these were names on paper to me. I didn't know who any of these guys were, right? You were explaining it to me, and then, I got the guys we signed, I got to know, pretty well on a few phone calls. But all the things that we talked about back then, and that you talked about, and then once we brought on, Jake and Brian after we signed the first few players, again, just the conversations then were about their work ethic and their composure,
like,
and
is
no
this
egos.
guy gonna grind?
And you and the coaches talked so much about that work ethic and that dedication, and we've seen that pay dividends. You and the coaches talked about the composure that these guys would show, that they were the kind of players and the kind of people that could handle setbacks and come back, could handle what we saw this weekend about having adversity during a tournament and coming back. Those were things that you and the coaches talked a lot about when we were talking about these 5 guys. And from my standpoint, not knowing anything at the time about those players, like, to watch that manifest itself the way it has really, it's just so encouraging for the direction this team is headed.
Right.
And I truly believe we'll take that next step.
I believe it too. We can win. It's possible that we win multiple times this year, and we're going to have to keep our nose to the grindstone for it. We're going to have to keep evolving because obviously the meta of the game changes. People learn things, and you learn those counters, and so it's always interesting to watch. But I think this team has the grit that it takes to get to that level and to try to maintain it. And I'm just so proud of them.
And then when you combine how hard the players work with how hard all the staff works too. I mean, I told this to our staff in a team meeting yesterday. I mean, this stuff doesn't happen by magic, right? The amount of content that we put out this weekend was unreal. I mean, we were looking back at, Instagram feeds and Twitter feeds. Like, we put out close to as much content as the rest of the league combined. And that's
left-handed salute. Sorry,
I mean, it's like such a shout out to our entire staff and, and the team grinding away. And the thing that I loved, I told the group this, obviously, I've been close to some things, not as close to others, right? But there were some things that the content team put out over the weekend that I hadn't seen and didn't know they were working on, and they were amazing.
Cool.
And I was like, I'm seeing it for the first time, like any fan. Or maybe I saw it in Slack 5 minutes before I got posted. But that's just I'm so proud for moments like that where just this team is just churning out amazing stuff. And, it's such a key part of as far as I know, we're the only team doing watch parties, right?
Yeah. Which blows my mind, by the way.
Yeah,
what are y'all doing?
Yeah,
maybe, we've just put such an emphasis maybe on building a good culture. And I hate to say it because it's such an overused word, but we're doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one step at a time.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It really is, none of the stuff we're doing is rocket science, right? It's just okay.
It seems like a given.
Yeah. The next, but we're constantly looking at what's the next step we can take down this path? Okay. We had a home event. The next step is to do a watch party. Okay. Had a great watch party on a Saturday. The next step is to do a watch party on the Sunday too. Okay. This many people showed up for the watch party. Let's create an environment where they all want to bring a friend next time, which is sort of how we saw it. I obviously wasn't there, but the numbers wise, it looked like that. A lot of that happened.
I saw people who had come alone bring friends the next time, which was awesome.
And then we look at just we say it all the time here, but it's, building this one fan at a time. And we want every fan that listens to this podcast or watches our matches or comes to a watch party to feel a part of what we're building here, because this doesn't go anywhere if we don't have great fan support.
If nobody cares, then that's what you don't want. And so we've done a really good job, whether it's through the content or through this community building stuff, to really get that environment to make people care. I mean, now and just to touch on the players again, you have players like RØKKR, who most know he's been underrated, but now he's getting treated a little bit. He's starting to get that superstar treatment, which he deserves that. He's played his ass off, right? And Alex too. Hardly any. I shouldn't say nobody knew him, because Coach, Coach was the one who, when he came on, he was we should get Alex. That's where we want to go. And I'm bet, let's go. So, but the fact is, he wasn't a big name, and him wanting to go outside of his roots of the UK teams, it was cool to see him do what he wanted to do. You know what I mean? And just seeing them get recognition for that, and I guess props, it's nice. I'm sure it feels good, but it's just awesome to see them compete every single day, that they're grinding towards getting that win. Just to wrap this thing up, this is what we'll leave on. Brian Saint put on Twitter after the event. So we went from top 4 to top 2 to question mark. So hopefully,
I love their attitude.
I know, I love that.
Brian's attitude. I love the players' attitude.
Never satisfied. He also kind of seems even if we were to win, he would be but we messed this up. So let's work on that too. It just seems like the type of guy that Brian and Jake too. I think that they would have that attitude. But
absolutely,
really proud of the team. Thank you guys so much for listening or watching. If you're watching, you're on our YouTube channel. What's up? Hit subscribe. Hit the like button. Leave a comment. Tell us your thoughts. If you're listening on iTunes, we would really appreciate a 5-star review, or whatever stars. How many stars you think we deserve?
Whatever you think is appropriate.
Yes.
No pressure.
5 stars, please. Yes. Leave a review with your thoughts, and yeah, keep on the lookout for the next one. I think our format after this will be recapping events together and then getting guests during weeks where we don't have events, obviously. So, sometimes we're going to have event-heavy topics, and then other times we're going to just kind of shoot it and talk esports with
Let
people.
us know in the comments what you want to see, right? Or what you want to hear. This is,
If you have topics.
Ashley and I can talk to each other all day. Like, we want to talk about things that are relevant to the listeners.
Exactly. So hit us up with topics, or if there's a person you'd want to see on the podcast, like, we'll do our best to bring them on. I think we're going to even start to try to bring people in remotely. So although we would love to have them here at our set, I think we might even try to start doing some long distance kind of interviews or podcasts. I think it'd be really cool. Anyway, Thank you guys so much for listening or watching. We'll catch you next week. See you later.